welcome to all our viewers and welcome to a new edition of Africa Today, our show bringing you all the latest news and events happening all around the Black Continent. My name is Angie Meher and I'll be joining you for today's edition of the show. And of course, as usual, we begin straight away with a look at some of the news making the headlines, beginning with the latest developments in Gaza. Hamas and the Israelis began a four-day truce on Friday morning with the first of 4 daily exchanges of hostages held in Gaza in return for Palestinian women and children, detainees held in Israeli jails, taking place later in the day. We have more details in this report.
Qatar said it is focused on further extending a ceasefire between Hamas and the Israeli occupation beyond Wednesday, based on the group's ability to continue releasing 10 hostages per day. The Foreign Ministry spokesperson Majid Al-Ansari said in a press briefing on Tuesday, Qatar cannot validate the number of remaining hostages beyond the 20 to be released by Hamas on Tuesday and Wednesday, in an extension to a truce brokered by the Gulf country alongside Egypt and the US. Under the Hamas-Israeli deal, the two sides agreed to a 4-day truce so that 50 women, children and teenagers under the age of 19 taken hostage could be freed in return for 150 Palestinian women and teenagers in Israeli detention. The deal includes agreement to allow more emergency aid and fuel into Gaza. The hostages, among about 240 taken by Hamas in their October 7 reprisal raid on the Israeli occupation enclaves, have been released in groups of a dozen or so each day in exchange for groups of Palestinian prisoners. As of Sunday, 40 Israelis, some of them holding dual citizenship, had been released, according to an Israeli tally. In addition, 17 Thai citizens and 1 Filipino farm workers employed in southern Israeli territories when they were seized were freed under a separate agreement. Those involved in the deal for the Israeli hostages have described the break in hostilities as a humanitarian pause. Qatar's chief negotiator in ceasefire talks, Minister of State at the Foreign Ministry, Mohammed Al-Khulaifi, said that while the truce was in place, there would be no attack whatsoever, no military movements, no expansion, nothing.
Still with news, the United States is sending 3 military aircraft to Egypt starting Tuesday to bring vital humanitarian aid for Gaza during the truce held between Israel and Hamas, according to senior U.S. officials. The relief flights are carrying food, medical supplies, as well as winter gear, and they are the first by the U.S. military since the conflict began with the October 7th reprisal attacks on the occupation settlements. We have more details in this story.
The United States is sending 3 military aircraft to Egypt to bring vital humanitarian aid for civilians in Gaza during a pause in fighting between Hamas and the Israelis. The first plane bringing medical items, food aid and winter gear will land in North Sinai on Tuesday, and the other 2 will arrive in coming days. U.S. officials said 808 trucks reached southern Gaza from Egypt in the first 4 days of the truce, with some aid also reaching badly hit northern Gaza. They said the movement over the last 4 or 5 days of assistance has been so significant in volume that a backfill is now needed, and these planes are part of that backfill. While Washington has deployed 2 aircraft carriers in the region and ferried military assistance to key ally Israelis, it has not previously used military assets during this conflict to deliver humanitarian aid.
And still with our news, the Lebanese media reported Israeli shelling in South Lebanon on Tuesday. Spokesperson for the Israeli occupation army said it was currently not aware of such an incident, whilst the UN peacekeeping force in Lebanon said it was looking into the reports. We have more details in this story.
Lebanese media reported that an Israeli shell struck the outskirts of a town in South Lebanon on Tuesday, hours after a temporary truce between the Palestinian group Hamas and the Israelis was extended for 2 days. A spokesperson for the Israeli occupation army said it was currently not aware of such an incident. Lebanon's state-owned national news agency and the Lebanese broadcaster Al Jadid reported an Israeli shell had struck the outskirts of the town of Ait al-Shab on Tuesday morning. Both outlets cited their correspondents as the source. Weeks of cross-border shelling between the Israelis and Hezbollah came to a halt on Friday when the Palestinian group Hamas, Hezbollah ally, and the Israelis agreed the temporary truce in their conflict, which erupted on October 7. A spokesperson for the UN peacekeeping force in Lebanon, UNIFIL, said it was looking into the reports.
We're now delighted to be joined over the telephone by our guest for this afternoon, His Excellency Ambassador Mahmoud Ayoub, Minister Plenipotentiary Commercial. It's a very good afternoon to you, Your Excellency.
Good afternoon to you and to the viewers.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ambassador, for your time. And let me start by asking you, how do you see the success of this truce so far?
Well, we can say it is successful as far as the Israelis do their job. Egypt has played a dominant role in this respect. Maybe the United States and Qatar has helped in some way or other, but the facts on the ground shows that Egypt is the main player in this respect, and until now, many prisoners have been exchanged, or hostages, or whatever name we give to them, and Egypt has been very kind to them and in supporting them, in making it easier and safe for them to be delivered and returned back to Israel or to Hamas. And that is, by itself, it is an achievement that we can build and should build on, because the Israelis need very much this truce. They asked for it, they begged for it, and now Egypt is playing a role in this respect. And until now, we can say it is mildly successful.
Your Excellency, now what after the truce? There are already some reports that the truce can be extended for a day or two, allowing further pause when it comes to the humanitarian situation and the exchange of hostages. How do you see further political steps between Hamas and the Israeli occupation?
The end result of any such truce and the mediation should be peace. So a lot depends upon the willingness of the Israeli party in stopping their aggression on Gaza and yielding to the international pressure. It is not pressure only from Egypt and Arab countries and United States, but the world over are pressurizing Israelis to stop aggression and pull back to Israel or the occupied territory, in fact. So a lot waits to be seen whether Netanyahu will come to reason and pull back his forces and leave the Gazans in their own territory, because it is occupied and they have been deprived by Israeli soldiers for the main features, the main means of life, that is water and food, medicines and so on, and the fuel. And Egypt has supplied them in several containers in this respect, and we hope that the Israelis will come to reason and stop aggression and pull back.
Now, Your Excellency, why do you see that, as we've seen the images over the last few weeks, why do you see that the Israelis are targeting and find no shame in targeting women and children in residential areas as well?
This is the Israeli way, lying and targeting women and the children. They cannot deal with men like them, because the Hamas people and the resistance, or rather resistance is not only Hamas, many other factions are there. They cannot deal with men like them, so they target this as a means to pressurize the Palestinians to submit to their will. And until today, and maybe tomorrow, and almost hopefully tomorrow, and willingness of Israel, the Palestinians to resist the aggression is continuing, while the Israelis are losing lives beside vehicles and so on. And so a lot depends upon the Israeli side to be convinced by facts on the ground that the aggression is unsuccessful and the victory is for the Palestinians in Gaza.
Now, how do you see, the recent global public opinion with regards to what is happening in the Gaza Strip? We are seeing a clear division is being witnessed in the West, specifically between, political leadership and the people of these countries. How do you see this, and what role can it play in shifting stances of Western countries?
This is a positive change in the attitude and the mood of the public opinion, especially in the Western world.
Yes.
We have seen that media in the Western world was biased, completely biased. Now it is beginning to know the facts on the ground, and they are forced to say the facts as it is. And in response, to the demonstrations in Paris, in London, in New York, in Washington, and in other places in the world. So the public opinion is pressuring their own governments to pressure the Israelis to pull back and stop aggression in Gaza. The same thing happened in other countries of the world. Even they expelled the Israeli ambassadors in their countries. So international pressure is going against the Israelis now to stop aggression and pull back their forces from Gaza.
Absolutely. Now, of course, one of the major fears of the escalation in this conflict is spillover to other countries in the region. And we've seen, Lebanon, Iraq, Yemen getting into the line of conflict one way or the other. What are your expectations of a spillover into other areas in the Middle East?
It can spill over if it continues, because we have seen the situation in Lebanon, we have seen what is happening in the Western Bank and in Syria, and also we are seeing the situation in Gaza is worsening every day, the humanitarian situation, I mean. So continuation of aggression means spread of violence in the area. When I say in the area, I mean the neighboring countries to Palestine or Israel. So the spread of violence will be detrimental to the interests of the Israelis themselves, and many of the Israelis are leaving Israel to their original country. They are back to Europe. We have seen this. This must be convincing any even mildly reasonable person to pull back and stop aggression.
Yes. Now, Your Excellency, let me ask you, in your opinion, from an economic point of view, how long do you think the Israelis, can withstand this continued conflict? How long would the West be able and willing to pay for these Israeli expenses?
The United States is paying for most of the expenses, but American taxpayers are beginning to question Biden and their president. Why are we doing this when it is an unjust war? So the shift in the public opinion is pressurizing the Western governments, I mean, not countries, governments, to stop aiding and helping and supporting Israel financially, economically, or with ammunition, or with food, or with planes, with vehicles, and so on. So international pressure can bring positive results because it is material pressure on the Israelis, and this is the only way for them to be convinced. Strong resistance on the ground and stopping aid from Western countries to the military vehicles, military apparatus of Israel in their aggression against the Palestinians.
We've seen aid pouring in, from all over the world for the Palestinians, specifically in the Gaza Strip, and Egypt has played a critical role in trying to get the aid across to the people that most desperately need it. How do you see this role? And Egypt has played several mediating roles, in fact, when it comes to the Palestinian cause and this latest crisis.
Egypt is playing a dominant, important, and vital role in saving the Palestinians in Gaza and saving their lives. The 80% of assistance and support to Gaza, which is going to Gaza, is coming from Egypt. 20%, around 20% is coming from other countries. So the aid, international aid, which is coming to Rafah, to Al-Arish, and delivered by Egyptian persons, by Egyptian vehicles, and Egyptian containers, is vital for the livelihood of the people in Palestine and in Gaza, and that is a crucial role and important, and should continue until a settlement is reached or truce is extended in Gaza.
Absolutely right. I'd like to thank you very, very much, Your Excellency Ambassador Ayoub, Mahmoud Ayoub, Minister Plenipotentiary Commercial. Thank you so much, sir, for your time and your insight, and for joining us on our edition of Africa Today. I'm afraid that's all the time we have for you. You were in the company of myself and Jumeir. Thank you for joining us.